Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. So, it's Star Wars season and I'm thinking about making a lightsaber with this. Well, not really with this. I picked this up. This is basically a broom handle, quite a long one. And I thought what we'd do is we would use this to make a mould, because what I was thinking about doing is making a mould this shape and then filling that mould with resin, putting some kind of light inside it, and then making the kind of like the handle bit out of wood. So you've got like a wooden handle, and then the main lightsaber is out of resin. Now obviously we can choose some blue resin to be on the good side, or we can choose some red to be on the dark side. Not too sure which side I'm going to choose yet, but I'm sure it will come to me. I know the force is strong with the dark side. So I'm not too sure how this is going to end up, even if it's actually going to work. I have no idea. I haven't done anything like this before, but I'm intrigued to see if I can do it. So the first thing we need to do is make a mould for this, but we don't want it this big. That's way too long. We need to chop this down a bit. So I'm going to chop this up, try and make a mould to fit our mould in, to make a mould of this. Does that make sense? I don't know. Let's see how we get on. I'm just as confused as you are. So here's our mould for our mould. But since then, I've been online trying to find myself a few ideas of how to make this lightsaber. I had a look around eBay and found this, an old lightsaber tube. So what I thought I'd actually do was use this to mould it with, rather than the stick. This has actually come from an actual lightsaber. Well, not a real one, almost. So I thought I would use this to do the mould with, and I think this might work a bit better. What I've done is I've taped up the end, because we don't want any of the mould getting inside the hole, but this will work really nicely. This fits in there perfectly, like so, and I think that will make the perfect shape for our lightsaber mould. So this is all ready now. This is all sealed up and dried in there. Put loads and loads of glue in there, and the key to making these moulds is making sure you get a load of hot glue in each end. So I think what we've got to do now then is make the mould, then leave that overnight to cure, and then come back and hopefully we've got a perfect lightsaber shape mould. Let's do that. Okay, so this mould is in there now. Now I have made a bit of a mistake here. What I forgot to do was to, what I probably should have done is glue the plastic kind of lightsaber thing to the bottom of this mould, because it kept popping up right to the surface, and that really wasn't working. So what I've had to do was clamp it down so it stays at the bottom. Now I don't really know how that's going to turn out. I'm not too confident as to whether or not that is actually now going to ruin the mould, and I think it is going to ruin the mould. So if that doesn't work, or if there's no way of fixing it, we might be able to fix it by adding some mould on top of the hole. So I think there's going to be a hole there now. So we might be able to fix it by adding another bit of mould on top of there, possibly. So that's alright if we can do that, but yeah, I've made a bit of a mistake by doing that. Really shouldn't have done that. Should have glued it to the bottom. But we'll see how this pans out, and hopefully we can still use it.
If not, we're just going to have to do it again.
Okay, so just as I thought, it's left a little bit of a hole where I put the clamp, and the same up here as well. So it might be alright, but just in case, I am going to mix up a little bit more mould and just put a drop in there just in case there is any issues. Taking the elastic bands off, this is all kind of dried now, so it's all ready for me to demould to get to our mould. But I say, before I do that, I'm just going to drop a little bit in there and a little bit in there and leave that overnight once more. We'll come back in the morning, see if we can see what we've got. Okay, so here's our mould. I've just demoulded the mould, and now we're left with hopefully a nice, perfect kind of round tube effect for the lightsaber. But what I'm going to do is, before I mould this properly, because what I need to do is fit some LED lights inside here. Before I do that, I'm going to do a test run to see how this is going to turn out. So I'm going to knock up some resin, do a little bit of a test run with this mould, and just see what it turns out like. So let's do that. Okay, so I've decided that I'm going to remould this because I'm not entirely happy with the mould. I want this to come out quite well, if I'm honest, and these sort of like areas are not brilliant. This area here is going to be kind of hard to kind of rectify because of the mould, really. So I've got an idea of what to do, so I'm going to just mould it again, but using the current mould in the current mould to do another mould. May the force be with me. Okay, so what I've done here is I've made the mould bigger because I want a thicker wall of mould. I think it's going to end up better really if we have a thicker wall up here. So I'm going to put the old mould back in here, and then I'm going to fill the rest of this up to here, and I think that's just going to make an all-round better mould. So I've just glued some more of this sheet onto the existing mould, both sides, so I can fill it up a little bit more. Put some glue all the way around the edges, underneath, around the sides, so it's really sealed up. So that should do. So let's get on. Right, so we're getting somewhere. So what I bought as well is I bought this little LED little system, which I need to try and get inside this mould before we put the resin in. So that's why I wanted to test it first of all, because I didn't want to ruin my chances, because I've only got one of these, and this will work really well, this little system. I think it is from actually a Lightsaber. I bought loads of little different bits of components and all sorts of stuff, so but this will be perfect for the job. So I've got to try and get this in there and try and get it in the middle. Okay, so I've cut through the end here to put the wire through, because I'm not going to need this mould afterwards, so I can slip right through the mould and just take that out. And I'll put a little bit of some glue on the end, hot glue, to stop any leakages coming through. Hopefully that will be fine. So I've got this thing inside here now, and this should hopefully sit centre. I made the mould bigger, so once we've put the resin in, we can just seal this up, and hopefully it will create a nice round stick saber. But don't really know how this is going to work out, or if it's going to work out at all really, but still we're going to give it a go and see what happens. Made my resin up, so ready to pour it. Let's do it. Now we wait.
Don't get cocky!
Okay, so now we've done the lightsaber stick bit. Now need to do the base. Not too sure what you call it. The whole thing's a lightsaber, so this is the bit that it comes out of. So this is the handle. So we just need, I think this is about right. I think this might be a piece of walnut. It's fairly light. Doesn't say on it, but I'm not too sure if I'm right on that or not, but it may well be. So we're going to kind of put this on the lathe and turn this into a handle, and then what we want is we want a hole in the bottom, because what I bought some components which I'll show you in a second, which has got a little sound in it which creates the sound of the saber, that sound. So we need to fix that into the base so we can hear that. Then we need to be able to get inside this to put the battery and components and circuit board and things that I've got as well for it. So we need to turn this into the shape we want it. Then we need to cut it in the middle to try to get inside it to fit all the bits and pieces in it. So not too sure how this is going to go, but oh well, let's give it a bash, get it on the lathe. Okay, so I've got this now mounted up into the chuck. This is around about the size that I think I'm going to go with. Maybe a little bit smaller yet, I don't know, but it feels alright. It feels like a good size to have. Now what we've got to try and do now is this is the component. So I'll show you this. This is the bits and pieces I bought off of eBay. So that makes the sound, and this is the circuit board that makes that work. So I need to try and incorporate this inside here and have the sound part of it come in at the end there like that. So I need to try and fix that in there, but I need to get inside the whole of here anyway. I need to try and get inside here because I need to fit the battery pack in here and stuff. So this has to be kind of like opened up, and this has to sit inside there as well. So don't really know how I'm going to do it yet, but I'm working on it. Right, so this is what we've done so far. So I've got that ready now to put my sound in the back there. So that will sit inside there somehow like that. We just need to get it fixed in there. Probably, well, I don't know, maybe a bit of glue or something like that. But what we need to do now, which is obviously not brilliant, but we've got to get inside here. So the only way to do that, I reckon, is to split this right open down the middle. So I say it's not the most perfect idea in the world, but I don't really know how else to get inside here to put everything else in, unless this stuff will fit in there. It might fit in there actually. Then we've got to have access to the batteries as well. Got the batteries to go in here yet, so this has got to be made a lot bigger. Don't know. I'll have a think. I'm sure it will come to me. Okay, so I've decided not to split this up. So need to get this in there. So what I need to do is just drill a couple of holes here so that we can fit this up inside. Now what I've also got as well is I've got these little rubber strips. Now these will sit somewhere on here like this. So I'm going to do that carefully now. Okay, so I've had a bit of a problem with this switch. I put it all into the casing, and these wires kept popping off because obviously I'm messing around with them, which obviously isn't great. I've been trying to solder them back together with a little solder iron. It's just not working out. which now leads me to have to look for a different type of switch. Now I've been on the internet and I bought another little device which basically has a push button like this. So obviously you've got a little bit of a hole in here now, so I'm going to try and improvise, and what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and get that sat in there like that somehow. And there it is. I even changed outfit for the occasion. So I had a lot of trouble with this, making this, but a colleague of mine came up with the idea that I should make a lightsaber out of wood and resin. And there it is, the finished lightsaber. This actually was a painful experience. I have to admit that, because it did take me quite some time to accomplish. It was a lot more difficult than I thought. It's probably not difficult for those of you that are into electronics and things like that, but the electronic part of this, the circuit boards, the circuitry, the wires kept popping off. I had to keep resoldering and resoldering. Then I couldn't get all of the components inside the hole that I made, so I had to try and make the hole bigger. Obviously, once taking it off the lathe, very difficult to try and make the hole without it kind of like wobbling all over the place. This part, again, I made a few mistakes at the bottom here, so it's got a few errors here. I'm not going to show you close up because I'm embarrassed, but I tried to make this bit smaller so it would fit into here, because it wouldn't initially fit in here. And then I put it on the sander and I took chunks out of it basically, which was pretty disappointing. But so it isn't the best at the bottom there. It's got a few scuffs and marks and things. So yeah, it's okay. I sealed it up with some resin in there, so that's solid. That's not going anywhere. You just have to pop the end of this off to change the batteries. And I had a problem with the switching system because the other circuitry system failed. I had to end up buying another circuitry system, or whatever you call it. Then that didn't fit the piece of wood. I then had to figure out how to put this in there. So I think actually that looks better than the actual switch. This is just now a push button. Are you ready? I think you've already seen it, but I'll show you again. Probably won't get the kind of effect you would normally get when it's dark, but I'll show you. Push this button, and there it is. You can hear that. Do you want to hear that again? Ready? And the light goes all the way up. You can't see it with the light on, and it makes that sound as well when you move it. That's pretty cool. And you push it again. The force is strong with me! So, there it is, folks. Hope you like it. Little bit late on the Star Wars theme because this literally took me ages. Started this weeks and weeks ago. Had to wait for various bits and pieces to come into the post. Obviously, we trialled to do this a couple of times to make sure that worked. But eventually I got there. And yeah, I think it kind of looks like a lightsaber. But it was very difficult. I definitely won't be making another one. And if I put my hood up, I definitely look like a Jedi. If you strike me down, I will become even more powerful.